This woman is 7 months pregnant. But only because of some quarrel with her husband. She was left alone on the flyover by her husband in the middle of the night. He walked down the street. But at this time, a car hit a woman with a 7-month-old baby in her stomach. But strangely, the police could not find the woman's body. Shaho's detective team continued to search. Until a week later they continued to work. 2 female students are currently making an appointment for a live stream on the flyover at midnight. When both are passionate about interacting with the audience, 2 drunk men walk behind. They approached the 2 girls. But the 2 girls weren't afraid at all. The short-haired girl even teased these 2 men. Ask him how many people are here. Although the man was drunk, but he was still conscious. He said that there were 5 people here. Looking in the direction the man was pointing, there was indeed a woman in white. This horrific scene frightened them so much that they screamed and fled. Because the girl is still alive. So the news spread quickly. They said that there was a witch dressed in white on the flyover. Scare everyone. I dare not go down that road again. Gu, a criminal investigation expert, knew about the incident. He watched the live broadcast video carefully. He decided to investigate the matter. But because he's still sick, so he assigned Dao and Sound Yat Lang assistants. First, go to the 2 girls personally to find out the situation. But 2 Dao still didn't know their identity. How to find them? At this time, Gu suddenly made a new discovery. He reviewed the live video carefully. He finds the 2 girls. Through the math book, he sees the word in the book. This is the latest pilot textbook. Currently, the university has introduced this collection of textbooks. So these 2 girls must be college students. He heard this. 2 Dao immediately took Sound Yat Lang to find out. After some investigation, the 2 finally found the short-haired girl. The girl was a witness that night. The scene he saw was very scary. He said like a madman. He said he checked the book after coming back. He thought the woman he saw that night, maybe a dead pregnant woman. He was very upset. Because of that, summer nights were so hot. She appeared alone on a deserted overpass. The girl was very frightened. 2 Dao and Sound Yat Lang couldn't believe what he said. Then they went to the overpass. Because Gu couldn't get out of the hospital, so 2 Dao arranged a video call for him, in order for him to see their surroundings clearly. The 2 of them took a walk that night, where the woman in white appeared. After some careful observation, Sound Yat Lang found, under the bridge was a dilapidated house. This hut was far from where the woman in white had appeared. Maybe this is where she lives. To find out the truth, the 2 secretly went to the hut. Although the overall appearance is a bit messy, the hut is clean enough. But both feel that there is something very strange about this place. But to find out the truth as soon as possible, Sound Yat Lang could only muster the courage to knock on the door. But long knocking, still no one answered. Perhaps this place was abandoned. Sound Yat Lang boldly opened the door. After the 2 entered, they looked around carefully. Tables and chairs are quite complete, including pots and pans on the wall. Looks like someone lives here. The house smells weird. The smell almost made Dao want to vomit. But there was no other way. 2 people have to go there to check. Xu Yao is holding a cell phone, carefully showing him everything in the house. It is a patient with a very severe obsessive disorder, trying to see the messy house. He looks like a madman. Unexpectedly, at this time, a man with messy hair suddenly grabbed the camera. He appeared from outside the window and shouted, "Don't steal my baby." After that, he rushed in, facing 2 Dao and Sound Yat Lang. The bearded man was scared to death. 2 Dao quickly calmed him down. "And don't say anything. Don't be afraid." Her words caught his attention. Unexpectedly, he was now staring intently at Sound Yat Lang's camera. He seemed to know Sound Yat Lang as a photographer. She dances happily. He said he would go looking for the treasure with Sound Yat Lang. In order to get more hints from him, Sound Yat Lang could only agree. Unexpectedly, this man wanted to go in search of treasure with Sound Yat Lang. Suddenly he got angry again. He held his little box. A few days ago she was crying. There was a woman in white, who was 7 months pregnant. She came to steal her child. The woman's mouth was still blood red. Looks like he's a cannibal. He was afraid to die. Maybe he was telling the story that night. The woman in white who appears in the video. But when they questioned him, he cried even louder. The helpless Dao could only change the subject. Ask him, where will he dig the treasure? Unexpectedly, upon hearing this, he stopped crying for a moment. He spoke to Tu Dao with great interest. But about where to dig for the treasure, he didn't reveal anything. Seeing him living here, they still couldn't get any clues. Then the two of them left. The next day, they went to the hospital again, discussed the case with a martial arts expert. But while everyone was talking, suddenly there was a voice outside. Some people came out to check. It turned out to be a man in a wheelchair. The woman next to him scolded him. That woman is pathetic. With chopsticks pick up the food that is scattered on the ground. But the man in the wheelchair kept cursing. Even wanted to start hitting him. Lang stopped him immediately. The man sees people gathered. His eyes immediately softened. He laughed, and said it was because his wife was too careless. After causing food to be scattered everywhere, he was furious. So he shouted. Finished explaining. He shouted that his wife who was squatting on the ground had left. At this point, Gu, who was behind the knife, realized something was wrong. This poor woman, not only is her forehead bruised, but her wrist is injured. And apparently, he wasn't hurt at the same time. Vu thought about the attitude of the man in the wheelchair. Maybe the woman experienced domestic violence. Once she saw the incident, she couldn't just stand by and watch. He decided to help this woman. But the Dao on the side is a bit unpleasant. Now they are investigating the flyover. How can this be handled? The other woman didn't say a word. What can they do? But Gu didn't care about this. Since he had seen it, he decided to follow the case closely. That night, Ko Vu was sleeping in his room, when suddenly he heard something in the hallway. There was the sound of rustling footsteps. He immediately went out to check. He found people walking in the hallway. It was a man in a wheelchair. All his footprints were covered in mud. It's late. Where did he go? Gu couldn't understand it now. So he decided to contact the couple again. Exactly the next day was the day the man was discharged from the hospital. Gu Vu tried to approach them. He also quickly got them out of the hospital. Wait for them at the hospital door. While talking to the two, Ko Vu learned that this man's name was Trong Ton. His wife is Tun Bin. As Trong Ton said, Ko Vu suddenly saw a big bruise on Tun Bin's leg. It seemed that he was being bullied by Trong Ton. To help her escape Trong Ton's abuse, he spoke to Trong Ton harshly. Can you bear this wound alone? In the spirit of helping others, wish he would take her home. But Trong Ton wouldn't. He politely refused to go home, saying that Tun Bin was afraid to go home with strangers. How could this small difficulty beat Vu? Coincidentally, at this time, his two assistants, Tu Dao and Sao Nyat Lang, also arrived. The three persuaded, and finally moved Trong Ton. Then they all got into the car, left halfway, trying to pretend to ask Trong Ton, "How are your sore ribs?" Trong Ton was a little confused when he heard this, but still trying to answer. He said he was playing basketball, and accidentally bumped into someone. Hearing this, Gu immediately asked, in what position did he play? However, Trong Ton forced him to open his mouth to speak, but then he tried to hide it again, saying that he really is a defender. He was clearly a bit confused by the question. Ko Vu knows that this Trong Ton must be a lie. But at this time, a man suddenly rushed in front of the car. The supreme wanderer of the Tao has been researched. This man was the same bearded man as yesterday. Why did he suddenly appear here? Only when some people have doubts. The bearded man suddenly shouted at Trong Ton that he stole his property. Then he held the camera in his hand. Take Trong Ton's photo. Trong Ton is in trouble. Nyat Lang started the car and immediately left. Not long after, everyone arrived in front of Trong Ton's house. Trong Ton wanted to say goodbye to the old man, but I didn't expect her skin to be so thick. He stood at the door, but refused to leave. Then he asked for water. He wanted to come in for a drink. Tun Bin could only invite him into the house. What a quality owner. They entered Trong Ton's magnificent home. Immediately after breaking into the house, Ko Vu left his shoes at the door. The bent vase was reshaped. Then he turned and found 5 or 6 locks on the door. How is this facility described? As soon as Vu wondered, Trong Ton rushed to explain. He lives in a remote area. Said to avoid theft, door locks must be installed. Guu felt a bit strange after hearing this. But so as not to surprise him. Not much is needed. After that, Vu looked around Trong Ton's house. Then he said goodbye and left. After this observation, Vu felt that Trong Ton had a problem. Every time Tun Bin spoke, he had to look at Trong Ton's face. And he remembered that Trong Ton had gone out the night before. Every time he came back, Sun Bin's body the next day, visibly injured again. Apparently, Trong Ton was talking to his wife. But he still tortures his wife. So, Guu couldn't stand and watch this. He would gather some more evidence, go to the police station and report the incident. Unexpectedly, this morning the police received a notification. On the river under the flyover, the body of a man has been found. Police recovered soon after the victim was taken out. This is a man with a beard. Medical examiner. This man died around 10 o'clock last night. The cause of death was drowning. The police determined that he was walking because the road by the river was too slippery. He slipped and fell, and accidentally fell into the river. Then he drowned. But the team captain was a bit suspicious. Based on the investigation, the victim's house is near the location. He was very familiar with the place. Why did he fall into the river? Hearing this, Vu decided to go to the victim's house. Perhaps going to find some surprises. They soon arrived at the door of this man's house. At this time, Ko Vu suddenly remembered that he often took pictures. Maybe some photos taken before he died could be of use. So he immediately called the police. See if the police found this man's camera. It was unexpected, but he learned that the police were only at the river to retrieve the body. There is a novel named This Man. How could he read such a book? Still not understanding. So, Vu went to this man's house to check it out. But he saw lots of animal sketches plastered on the walls. But one of them has a picture of a cow. It seems like there is something wrong. As if seeing something, follow the gaze of the bull on the canvas. Find the last image, the tree sketch. Could this be a clue? They immediately followed the tree on the canvas, found near this man's house. A very similar tree. Some people dug under a tree. Suddenly 20 centimeters above the ground, he found the charm of peace. Tu Dao took a closer look. There were 2 words written on Tru Lin's talisman. Who is this person? Miss Vu remembered the pregnant woman who died on the flyover earlier. Police have not found his body. And because at that time the supervisor could not catch his face, so it was impossible to confirm his identity. Just found out she was pregnant. Maybe the pregnant woman was Tru Lin. To find out the truth, the captain immediately went to find Tru Lin's husband, Vong Lam, to come to see Vong Lam. After carefully examining the amulet with the symbol of peace, he was sure that this was the peaceful charm of his wife, Tru Lin. According to him, his wife is Tru Lin, 26 years old. She is 7 months pregnant. About a week ago, Tru Lin suddenly disappeared. The family never heard from him after that. Fuang Lam cried and pleaded with the police. Please help him find his wife. The captain heard this. He laughed. According to the investigation, on the night of the accident, Vong Lam was originally playing cards. Tru Lin then called him to leave. The two having a heated argument as soon as they got into the car. Vong Lam then drove the car onto the overpass to get off. Tru Lin was very frustrated at the moment. He got out of the car. At that time Vong Lam wanted to teach Tru Lin a lesson. So it wasn't until half an hour later that he had just returned to the flyover. Unexpectedly his wife was no longer on the flyover. He deeply regretted his actions. But it's too late. After receiving this news, thought Guu. Now Tru Lin's talisman is buried here. Then he was most likely buried around here. As expected, after the police searched the area, in the dust not far from the peace talisman, found a hand. After being dug up, the victim's body was found to be rotting. The police determined the characteristics of the victim based on the remaining body parts. This is Tru Lin. Forensic examination shows that SS Tru Lin has many scratches on her body. Broken thighs, in addition to ruptured internal organs. A lot of blood loss and miscarriage. According to this analysis, the police initially decided that Tru Lin was most likely killed and died a week ago. After hearing this, Ko Vu suddenly remembered. Didn't Trong Ton break his ribs a week ago? Even though he said he was playing basketball. He accidentally bumped into someone. Can't even tell the difference between a striker and a defender. Obviously lying. GUU didn't want to miss a hint on this one. The police immediately summoned Trong Ton to the police station. However, when questioned by the police, he still refused to admit it. He claimed he injured his ribs. He was hit by someone while playing basketball. He refused to admit it. Plus, without solid evidence, there was nothing the police could do. At this time, the police came to check Trong Ton's car. Check the information about the car. He said, in the car there was no sign of people or weapons. And importantly, there is no repair record of this vehicle. After receiving this news, Ko Vu was so helpless. He thought that Trong Ton was most likely the killer. And Trong Ton's testimony is a lie. He covered up domestic violence. But after some investigation, he just wanted to understand what secret Trong Ton was trying to hide. In this case, the damage to Trong Ton's wife is too great. This can be explained. But when the police also questioned Tun Bin, his testimony was exactly the same as Trong Ton's. The two of them had negotiated before very clearly, trying not to give up. But it was impossible. He could only let go of Zhang Qing first. Just when Vu was worried how to make Trong Ton tell the truth, suddenly he received a call from Dao. He and Sao Nyat Lang suddenly found him. Bearded man, old camera. This type of camera has been discontinued several years ago. So this guy often takes pictures. It was basically fake. Considering his angry reaction when he saw Trong Ton that day, something went wrong between the two. Plus the day before, this man had drowned in the river. It's hard not to wonder what Trong Ton did. And after this person died, the police couldn't find the camera. It had to be taken away by the killer. So now, the film on the camera is the most important. The killer probably didn't know. There is no roll of film on the camera. If take this to test Trong Ton, maybe that will reveal the truth. After receiving this news, GUU immediately went to look for him. Prior to that, he had looked at Trong Ton's car, finding that it had just been repainted, and the edge of the front hood is scratched. Looks like he went to a secret shop to fix it. So no insurance, no repair receipts. GUU guessed that if Trong Ton was the killer, on the night of the crime, he beat Zhao Ling to death. For fear of being found out, Tru Lin's body was immediately taken away and buried under the bridge. But at this time, Trong Ton was suddenly found. There's a man with a camera, capturing his actions. He tried to catch the man, but because he couldn't do anything about it, so let him go. He escaped from the hospital the next night, only to find the man who took the photo. But no clue, until the day he came home. The man suddenly stopped the car. He said that Trong Ton stole his property. Back then, in Trong Ton's heart, he should have known that this man was the one holding the evidence of his crimes. So that night he found an opportunity to push the man into the river and drown. Then stole the camera, but he never thought about the camera. The film gets out of the way and hides where the treasure is usually buried. After hearing the late Vu's words, Trong Ton was furious. He told the late Vu that if he had evidence, he should arrest him immediately. So don't bother him. After saying that, Trong Ton got angry and left. Faced with his bad attitude, GUU was not angry to go against what he just said, just to tell Trong Ton, where is the bearded man's film hidden? If Trong Ton is guilty, he will find him tonight. The police will arrange it first. There must have been an arrest. As expected, the police didn't have to wait long that night. Then he saw a figure sneaking under the bridge. After he got the film, the police had ordered, "Police come in. Just beat him up and go to the police station." At this moment, Trong Ton is undeniable. He admitted that he killed Trong Lin and the other men. At the same time, Ms. Vu also understands why Tun Bin's body always has new scars. Tun Bin was probably in Trong Ton's car that night. He saw with his own eyes Trong Ton beating and killing people, then buried. She must have convinced her husband to turn himself in. But it didn't work, so his heart was filled with guilt. Every night she ran to the flyover to apologize to her husband. To remove one's guilt, he considered himself Trong Lin. Wear the dress Trong Lin wore on the night of her murder. Go to the overpass to redeem. And Trong Ton put a lot of locks on the doors. It was to prevent it from running out in the middle of the night. But still can't stop it. Therefore, Trong Chon could only run in the middle of the night to bring his wife home. During this time, the two often quarrel, so there will always be new scars on Tun Bin's body. Hearing this, Tun Bin immediately fainted. It seems that Vu guessed correctly too late. The case has now been resolved. Trong Chon will definitely pay the price for everything he has done. Now think again, if Tru Lin's husband at that time had not left her alone on the flyover. If Trong Chon hadn't hit and chased him, then there wouldn't have been so many tragedies. I advise everyone here, always respect the people around you.